So, the topic of my talk today is manage the body and transform the mind. Because I've always been intrigued about the Ayurvedic concept of constitution. Often we talk about the Dosha Constitution, but in the texts, the mental constitution is also mentioned. And it's also a fundamental belief in Ayurveda that the body and the mind is one continuum. So, how can one individual have a mental constitution that runs into contradiction with the physical constitution? Also, often we correlate the physical constitution to your mental state, because we know if you look at the descriptions of kapha prakriti, the kapha prakriti is supposed to be good, mentally sattvic. So does this mean that a person who has a kapha prakriti will always have a sattvic mind? In my explorations, I did not find this to be true, because when you see actual individuals, just because you are kapha prakriti doesn't mean that you are mentally very sattvic. Similarly, a vata prakriti person is supposed to be rajasic and tamasic, a mixture. But you find also very sattvic vata prakritis. And pitta prakritis should be rajasic, explosive. But this is also not always true. You have people who seem to be having a pitta constitution, but mentally. So this was the beginning of a journey. I mean, how to explore the correlation between the sattva prakriti and the dosha prakriti was one of my interests. And in that process, I found that the concept of constitution itself is quite complex. There are many things that we might have missed, because Ayurveda looks at the human being as a very complex phenomenon, and there are multiple things interlinked. And today I think the overemphasis on dosha prakriti has happened because of a reductionistic way of looking at Ayurveda. So I'd like to open before you the complexities of understanding the human constitution, and I'd like to make a distinction between personality and constitution. But we have multiple constitutions, and all of these things together, when they get arranged and interrelate in a complex way, the ultimate human personality finds expression. So we'll try to discover the making of the human personality by the interplay of complex factors that go to make up a being. So if you look at the classical Ayurvedic texts, we say prakriti, or the basic state, you can call it constitution, is actually made up of multiple factors. Like there is primarily jati prasakta prakriti. That is, if you belong to a particular race, then you share some racial characteristics. If you come from a family, you inherit certain characteristics. And this has an implication on your mental state, on your physical state, on your predisposition to diseases. And then if you live in a particular place, that place also has an impact on your constitution. And time also creates an influence on the way your being finds expression. We also talk about age as something which causes a prakriti, because old people behave in a particular way. All children behave in a particular way. All middle-aged people have something in common. So all these things were considered in Ayurveda as prakriti. And then we have what is called as pratyatma niyata, that is individual prakriti. So the fundamental thing in Ayurveda is that there is something called as a collective prakriti and an individual prakriti. This has completely been missed in the discussion on constitution. Because the first thing that Ayurveda tries to find out is that how are different people, looking seemingly different, how do they exhibit common characteristics? So up to Vayonupatini Prakriti, it is the common characteristics that are actually emphasized. In the sense, if you belong to one jati, then it's likely that all of you will have very similar characteristics. If you come from one family, so these are the prakritis which make group different people together under one umbrella.